Welcome to The Extra. Thank you very much for being with us on UBC TV. Now it is raining and we have two rain seasons and the March to May season is on. Now wherever you are in Uganda, these are the seasons we treasure so much. What does it mean? It means for the farmers you're growing food, but important to note, how are you growing this food? The world today is looking at organic agriculture. And when you look at things that are being exported outside Uganda, foodstuffs, many of these people focus on organically grown produce. So with me on set, I have a gentleman with whom we are going to discuss organic agriculture, and we are going to be looking at how can organic agriculture support the implementation of the Africa Union's CADAP Kampala Declaration. We remember we hosted this summit here in Kampala, and out of it came the Kampala Declaration. Among the key issues is ending hunger by 2030, that member states of CADAP will not have any country there where people lack what to eat and are dying because of scarcity of what to put inside their tummies. Now, join me welcome my guest this morning, that is Chariton Namuwoza, who happens to be the President, African Organic Network, and also the CEO of National Organic Agricultural Movement of Uganda. Chariton, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother Robert, and it's a pleasure being hosted again. I think the conversation that we're going to have this morning started last year in January, as you might remember, where the African Union convened a summit here in Kampala, and they made declarations. So I look forward to highlighting what is embedded or enshrined in the Kampala Declaration. Of course, the mention of the name Kampala gives visibility to our country. And of course, it's I would say a good coincidence, because Uganda, of course, is a global leader in the world of organic agriculture, and we'll be speaking to these achievements of Uganda. Yeah.
Now, to begin with, for our viewer, when we talk about organic agriculture, what are we going to be discussing? Because this is going to form the basis of our discussion.
Yeah. First of all, I think it is important for our viewer to understand what CADAP stands for. It is the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. It's a program of the African Union, which of course aims at transforming the African agriculture system, and of course, as you said, contributing to the targets of increasing production and productivity, ensuring that we have adequate food. And not just food, it should be nutritious. It should be available. It should be accessed by our citizens in Uganda and Africa. It should be also important to note that trade could be equated to production. Without production, there is no trade. So one of the targets of the Kampala Declaration, apart from increasing production and productivity, is ensuring that we engage in meaningful intra-Africa trade, because trade stimulates production. And once you have production, then you will have trade. Then, of course, the issue of climate resilience. You know that the world is increasingly facing the wrath of climate shocks, you know, floods, droughts. This season, I'm sure the farmers out there will agree with me that the rains came much earlier. And when I checked with friends across the country, it was true for all agroecological zones in Uganda. What does that tell you? That a farmer who used to plan to have seed ready for planting in March had to somehow find a way of getting seed to plant it when the rains had come in February. So climate resilience is very important, but also droughts. We are constantly faced with droughts, prolonged droughts. They affect production and productivity, they affect yields, and that impacts on the incomes of the farmers and of course livelihoods. But the other issue, of course, that the Kampala Declaration emphasizes is inclusive growth. The life of the smallholder farmer and the rural communities. These are key concerns of the African Union heads of state. And so in the Kampala Declaration, they emphasized the need to include everybody. So organic agriculture speaks to all these targets of the Kampala Declaration. And again, the other point to note is that the targets are focused on the period between 2026 now and 2035. So now is the time to actually engage in the full implementation of this Kampala Declaration. But of course, I think that the viewer needs to know that Uganda is well placed to take advantage of the opportunities out there to grow the agricultural sector. And I think that if you allow me at some point, I'll also speak to what our government can do to be able to spur growth in organic agriculture. Because as a country, we have emerged as a leader on the African continent. We are the country with the highest number of certified organic farmers. Okay. We'll speak to that later, of course. But we are not just the first in Africa, we are also second in the whole world.
Charlton.
And this is according to the latest statistics.
Sure.
We've just returned from the biggest organic trade fair. It takes place in a city called Nuremberg in Germany, and it happens every year in February. We've just returned, and the figures are impressive. But that also goes for the size of the organic market, which has expanded over the last 3 decades. And for me, all these are opportunities for us to integrate the resource-poor smallholder farmers into the global organic markets. So to speak to the targets and how organic agriculture can support the implementation.
Maybe if we even go into that, a deeper definition of organic agriculture.
Excellent.
Yes, because the viewer may wonder, when you talk of organic agriculture, what is this?
What do we mean?
Yes, what do we mean?
Yeah, excellent, Robert, and thanks for prompting that submission. Now, I think to simplify it for the viewers out there, I want you to first remember the kind of practices that happen out there in the rural areas. There is what we call traditional agricultural practices, which some people like calling organic by default farming practices. They are about 80 to 90% close to what typical organic agriculture should look like. Now, organic agriculture, of course, emphasizes the use of crop rotation, the kind of things that we do, mulching, composting, intercropping, agroforestry, growing crops in a combination with trees, beneficial trees that fix nitrogen in the soil, managing soil fertility, all these practices, increasing biodiversity, all these practices amount to what we call organic agriculture. But important to note is the zero tolerance for synthetic inputs.
Synthetic inputs.
Artificial inputs.
Artificial, you've said
that
right.
are not natural, that are not, and one thing I want to point out before I think we go deeper into this conversation, is that these inputs, organic inputs, are already being manufactured here locally.
The organic ones, yes.
And Uganda is home to some of Africa's biggest manufacturers of organic inputs. They are here. During the National Organic Week last year in November, we organized a tour for the participants. The National Organic Week takes place every year in November. We organized a tour for the participants to go and visit these factories that manufacture organic inputs. In addition to the farms, in addition to of course, manufacturers of the different value-added products and so on and so forth. So it is important, therefore, for us to realize that once you engage in those practices, you are actually coming closer to what a typical organic farmer should be doing. And apart from that, of course, apart from not using those synthetic chemicals and engaging in those practices on the farm that are nature friendly or friendly to nature, you then go an extra mile to establish what we call a traceability system, because the organic consumer out there, the buyer, wants to see products that are traceable. They want to avoid the risk of consuming products that have been contaminated with chemicals. So by establishing a traceability system, you're then able to demonstrate that actually your product has been produced according to the requirements of the organic standard. And that is the other thing I wanted to highlight, that organic agriculture follows the requirements of the organic standards. There are standards that are set. Standards are the do's and don'ts, what you must do and what you must not do. So an organic farmer, apart from engaging in those practices, there are things that they must know. The knowledge of what they should know, the standard, is critical. And when we do inspections or peer reviews, verification of their production systems, we also check their knowledge. What do you know about the standard? What does the standard tell you about composting, about mulching, about intercropping, about biodiversity, about managing pests and diseases, and paying attention to the 4 principles that define organic agriculture: the principle of health, the principle of ecology, the principle of fairness, and the principle of care. I could explain this when we have time. I think this can be a different discussion altogether. But the principle of health speaks to ensuring that the health of the consumers, the health of the plants, the animals, and the soil.
Not this of buying tomatoes that have mancozeb all over them.
Chemicals
because
that
you want shelf life.
Harm our lives. And we have indiscriminate use of synthetic chemicals where farmers, of course, with the goal of making money, they use chemicals indiscriminately. They overdose tomatoes, vegetables. They even they give birds, poultry, antibiotics and exceed the recommended amounts, and so many other things, you know, ARVs to poultry and all these things. So all those are not acceptable, and they are clearly highlighted in the organic standard, you know, GMOs. So a farmer must know that these are not allowed, so that they know where their seed is coming from. It must come from an organic source. They must know the inputs to use to manage their pests and diseases. They must know which fertilizers to use on their farms. They must be certified organic fertilizers. They must know how to deal with their you know, employees on the farm. Fairness, you know, the principle of fairness. Then the principle of ecology, making sure that they protect the environment. And the principle of care, taking care of the current and the future generations. I could go on and on.
Now that brings me to how can organic agriculture help in implementing the Kampala Declaration?
Exactly. So the targets stipulated in the Kampala Declaration are clear. One, the aim is to grow agricultural output.
Okay.
Food production should increase by 45% by the year 2035. we should contribute to climate resilience. I'll speak to all those targets and how organic agriculture can contribute to the targets. We should engage in inclusive growth, ensuring inclusive growth. And then, of course, promoting intra-Africa trade, yes. Increasing trade or boosting intra-Africa trade. And of course, the first target of increasing production, how does organic agriculture ensure increased production? First, we must understand that organic agriculture improves soil health. The practices that I have highlighted, crop rotation, mulching, water harvesting, agroforestry, they build fertility in the soil. You know, green manuring, intercropping with leguminous crops, they build fertility in the soil. And that fertility obviously increases yields. You know, the water retention capacity of an organic soil ensures that the plant has adequate water, which it needs to be able to produce more food. And of course, it ensures that there is adequate nutrition. The macro and micronutrients. Macro and micronutrients are needed by the plant, just like you, Robert. Macro and micronutrients help the body to become better in terms of how it performs. The energy, the resistance or immunity against diseases, longevity. You feel good, you live longer, you are a better person in terms of health when you eat organic products which are loaded with macro and micronutrients, and you resist diseases. So this is the idea that once farmers engage in organic agriculture, they are going to increase their production and productivity because of the soil fertility, but also they're going to produce products that are loaded with macro and micronutrients that a plant needs. And then, of course, the target of climate resilience.
I'm so interested there.
Climate resilience, of course, I already highlighted that we have climate shocks, rains coming early, increased drought, floods, and all these things. Because organic agriculture requires a farmer to ensure biodiversity.
And when you talk about the biodiversity, what are
so we are not growing coffee as a monocrop, but we grow coffee in combination with, let's say, vanilla,
integration of crop with,
yes, with leguminous crops, so that if the price of, let's say, coffee drops,
vanilla is up.
Vanilla, the price goes up.
When vanilla is up, Coke.
Yes, that increases the resilience of the farmers. And then, of course, droughts. The crops resist drought. The organic crops resist drought. And that is because of the soil structure, the soil texture, the physical, biological, and chemical properties of the soil are well balanced.
Not tampered
through organic agriculture. So the water retention capacity of the organic soil is higher and ensures availability of moisture even during the drought conditions. Agroforestry, the trees that are intercropped or grown in combination with the other crops, ensure that they provide shade. The mulching, the mulching practices and the green manuring cover the soil so that the moisture is preserved in the soil and the nutrients are available to the plant. So in terms of the crop being resilient, especially during the drought conditions, organic agriculture ensures that that is achieved. Now, the other issue that I wanted to highlight is that once an organic farmer is certified or has gone through a verification system, they have access to markets.
Oh, okay.
So they can engage in trade.
So you must first be certified.
You must go through some kind of certification, and there are two schemes of certification that are globally recognized. There's what we call third-party certification, and then second-party certification. And second-party is more affordable, more inclusive, because it involves the participation of different stakeholders in verifying that the product is organic. And it's suited for the domestic market. So when a farmer attains PGS, we call it PGS, Participatory Guarantee Systems. When a farmer attains PGS certification, they're able to take their product to Carrefour, or to the organic farmers markets, or to the shops, or to the retailers that are looking for organic products, because they have the guarantee that this farmer has been certified. Now, for the international markets, regional and international markets, third-party certification involves the participation of, again from the word third party, an accredited certification body comes to your farm and checks, or your factory, and checks whether you're complying with the organic standard. And once everything is in good order, they issue the certificate. And with that certificate, you can access regional and global markets. German, USA, China, Middle East, and so on and so forth. So by engaging in organic production, especially certified organic production, a farmer has more access to global and premium organic markets. And I will later also highlight the trend in the growth of the global organic markets, where in 2001, the global demand was 21 billion euro. Today, the latest figures indicate that the market has increased to 145 billion euros, and that is about $171 billion. That is up from 21 billion euros in the last 25 years. So you can see that the curve is really growing. And what is the reason? Because consumers out there, or buyers that want organic products, are concerned about their health. They are concerned about the environment, climate change. They are concerned about the social aspects or dimensions of our societies. So organic agriculture speaks to all those needs of the consumer. And once a farmer has entered the organic market, they will stay, because there is nothing that will kick them out. Of course, we have challenges which we must address, like the high cost of certification. For instance, the new EU regulation has meant that certification costs have had to double. Now that increase in the cost of certification, of course, poses a big challenge to the farmers that are not yet in the organic industry. So this is where now, of course, government must focus to see that we support the strengthening of the organic industry by investing in capacity building, by investing in certification, by investing in the aggregation of products, so that once a farmer has produced and they have been certified, then they can easily get into the market.
You talked about certified. Now, for example, I want to say Ugandans, 6 decades back, it was organic agriculture. Didn't have this synthetic. We would plant your things, they grow. I remember we had the mangoes, jackfruit at home, but there's nothing that we would put there. We wouldn't have synthetic unless we just have our... so for a farmer out there, and they are carrying on organic agriculture, they may do it deliberately or even not knowing that they are doing so. What advice is it necessary for them, if they're not looking at market, to get certified?
First of all, I think, and you brought it up very well, the lack of knowledge. I avoid the word ignorance because it sounds a bit harsh, and I don't want to sound harsh. But where a farmer, for instance, doesn't know how to use a synthetic product, a synthetic chemical, a synthetic fertilizer, herbicide to kill weeds, there of course, goal is to control weeds, kill the weeds. I grow my maize, make sure I manage the weeds. But remember, they have exposure to chemicals. Some of them are spraying. They don't know that this chemical, apart from killing the weeds, it's also going to get into their respiratory systems. Yes. It's going to get into their lungs. It's going to cause cancer and all this. And that's why you see cancer is on the rise. When you go to the Cancer Institute, the reports are alarming. We have many more cancer cases today than 6 decades ago, as you said, where, of course, synthetic chemicals were not used. So the indiscriminate use of chemicals, and especially by farmers that are not knowledgeable, that don't know that these chemicals are harmful, is a very big danger to our country. And I think that as a country, we need to pay attention to this issue because our people, and I will borrow some words, our children and grandchildren risk having shorter lives because what is happening at the dining table, you have chicken that is loaded with antibiotics,
a lot of antibiotics,
chemicals, all right? You have vegetables that are contaminated with chemicals, very dangerous chemicals that the farmer is using, from the grass to the nursery bed to managing pests and diseases all through the vegetables. Your potatoes, your rice, your cassava, your meat. So the food on the dining table, for lack of a better word, is poison. It is poison. This is what, and you know what? Everybody is eating this poison every day. Because when you eat tomatoes, which are, I think tomatoes are one of the most contaminated crops.
Yeah, you already see mangoes on them.
And you know what? Everybody eats tomatoes every day. You want nice soup that has tomatoes, and you are eating poison every day. And organic agriculture can reverse all this. We can grow tomatoes organically. We now have inputs here, very effective inputs that can help us to manage the pests and diseases of tomatoes and all these other crops. We have fertilizers that increase, that boost the immunity of the plants against the diseases and all these pests. So that a farmer who engages in production can put good, nutritious, safe, and adequate food on the table. And that is the difference. So it is important that as a country, and I know that the government has a key role to play here, because when you look at the chemicals that enter our country, some of these chemicals have been banned on the international market. Elsewhere they are not allowed, but somehow they enter. So one wonders whether the goal is just to promote the trade of those inputs. But also those people are very clever the way they may bring them into the country. Yes, exactly. So now we should build systems that ensure that our borders check whatever is coming in. And now, apart from that, we also have the challenge of the increased cost of the same chemicals that have been banned on the international market. Because of the global supply chain disruptions occasioned by the Russia-Ukraine war. And now we have the ongoing Israel conflict in the Middle East. All these impact on our production systems, and they mean that the production cost is going to increase. And increase in such a way that it affects the smallholder farmers more. The farmers that do not have a choice, because they think that by using this chemical from Russia or Ukraine, they will manage their pests. Now, when the chemical is not there, of course, they suffer. And yet there is an alternative. There are alternatives, local alternatives here. So our government can actually now stimulate increased production of these inputs here, so that we can match supply of these inputs with the demand from the farmers.
Now that takes me also to what position is Uganda holding? Earlier hinted on it, but I'm so interested to know how do you even get there? If you tell us that in Africa we are number one, in the world you said we are
number two, next to India.
Next to India.
Yeah.
Organic,
yeah.
When I move around, it's like today, everyone, they're either spraying, some we used to weed using a hand hoe, they have something they put in the pump at their back and you see them. So how do we get there really?
Now, interestingly, you know, the Bible says that when the children of God gathered, even Satan joined
Did
them.
come along.
So in Uganda, we have farmers who are organic, very good, very, very good. They are engaging in organic production. And these farmers, of course, go through the process of certification. And they attain certification. So the number of certified farmers in Uganda has reached 404,000. It actually exceeds 404,000 smallholder farmers.
That is good.
These are certified to organic standards.
Certified.
And
even.
it might seem to be small, but this is the biggest in Africa.
Now, when you say certified, that is very big, because me, I want to believe we even have those that are not certified.
We have those that are not certified.
Just doing the agriculture.
And they're the majority.
My grandmother doesn't apply anything.
Exactly. They're the majority.
She won't go for any seed. What she plants is where she'll keep her seed, go back to the garden. She doesn't use anything synthetic.
Exactly.
She'll get dung from the cow, get the urine, then add some plants for her. Even if it's spring, she'll have her piri-piri with some other, and then there she's good to go.
And you know, that is in the DNA of our farmers. Our farmers love nature.
Yes.
The majority of Ugandans, you could say 90%, because the 10% are those people that are living in the peri-urban areas that have access to these chemicals that are overdosing our plants and poultry and animals with chemicals that are not allowed. So our farmers, the majority, are involved in what we call traditional farming practices. Traditional farming practices are close to organic farming. And that's where, and that's what differentiates Uganda from the rest of the world. It is much easier for our farmers here, especially those that are engaging in traditional farming to convert to organic. Because apart from those practices, which they know and that they just need to improve, they need to establish a traceability system, and they need to document their practices, and then of course they pay the certification fees and attain certification. And then they will be ready to get into the domestic, regional and global organic markets. And the market is waiting. The market is guaranteed. And Robert, the market for organic products is readily available. Actually, the biggest challenge lies in production, limited production. Of course, plus certification and the low compliance capacity. Once we address these,
and most of
products will easily
come to compliance. You find that some of our crops today, we are making big sales, then the next time we try to compromise standards. We are not very good at sticking to standards. Once we get the mark required, for example, UNBS in terms of products, you first take a product today when it's coming on market, certified, go buy the same. After 2-3 years, if it's really, it has broken even, you will be shocked that the test will differ, so much will differ. So complying with standards.
And that's why, Robert, in organic farming, one of the requirements of the standards are the annual inspections. You check, because if I attain certification today, you give me the certificate. 2 years down the road, if you don't come to check, I could compromise and start doing things that are not acceptable. Because I have the certificate to flash to whoever wants to buy my products. That, of course, gives the wrong impression that all my practices are organic. But when we check periodically, annually, we check your practices. And if something has gone wrong, it amounts to what we call a non-compliance or non-conformity, which you must correct before the certification is renewed. And that's what keeps our farmers in check, and all the manufacturers of the excellent organic products here. They are constantly checked. But also internally, they have an internal mechanism of checking that their practices still conform to organic standards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how can government support organic agriculture?
Excellent question, Robert, and thanks for asking me, and especially when I'm in the studios of UBC, because I believe there are many government officials out there that are watching. First, let's recognize the fact that organic agriculture is a sure pathway for farmers to escape the trap of poverty. It's a sure pathway for implementing the Kampala Declaration with the targets that we've already highlighted, that we've touched on. It's a sure pathway for boosting trade. And also, over the years, we have attained a number of milestones. We must protect these gains.
Very true.
In the organic industry, our position as the #1 country in Africa with the highest number of certified farmers.
We must keep up there.
As a leader in the world of organic agriculture, on the African continent, but also globally. As a hub for excellent organic coffee, cocoa, spices, vanilla, black pepper, cardamom, name it, chili, all these products, fruits and vegetables that are grown by farmers across the country. Oil crops. Did you know that 88% of the oil seeds, sesame, which goes to the to the EU, 88% of the simsim, we call it simsim here, entungo in Uganda, nyim in Acholi, omukose in Lusoga, and so on. 88% of our simsim that goes to the European Union market is certified organic.
Oh.
90%, more than 90% of the chia, you know chia?
Yes.
That goes to the EU from Uganda, 90% is certified organic. That means all the chia and all the sesame can potentially be certified organic. It is possible. Most of the coffee that we export to the Middle East is categorized as organic and natural.
Oh, wow.
The Arabs buy it as organic or natural, because here it is grown naturally. And you know what? Last year, actually in 2024, Uganda exported agricultural products to the Middle East worth $660 million.
Oh. Government should really take this so very seriously. When you look at that, money is coming in.
Figures was worried. $660 million worth of agriculture exports went to the Middle East. So what am I trying to say? Why am I highlighting all these gains that we have as a country? We need to protect them by investing in the capacity building of our farmers. Let us move those traditional farmers one step further into the organic world. One step further. And that takes trainings, capacity building. Nogamu has an academy. We launched an academy, which is a vehicle through which we roll out capacity building to the country. And we have trained several farmers since our inception in 2001. We have also started training other Africans. We've been receiving Eritreans. Most of last year, every quarter, they've been coming to Uganda to learn from us, to our training centers that are in different parts of the country, here in Uganda. So let's invest in capacity building. Let's get as many farmers integrated as possible. Then let us invest in certification. Let's build...
Which you said is slightly expensive.
Yes, especially third-party certification. Let's invest in quality management systems at the farmer level. Let's invest in quality management systems for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Let us invest in the aggregation of produce at the farmer level. And let's ensure that this produce flows in a timely fashion to the factories. And you know, within the context of agro-industrialization, once we increase production, then let's ensure that whatever output has come from the farms should flow either to the market in the fresh form, especially for fruits and vegetables, but also in value-added form. We're talking about fruit pulp, concentrate, and all these excellent products. We can also invest as government. We can invest in trade, supporting our farmers to engage in trade. How? By establishing exclusive organic outlets, farmers markets. Let's support these farmers at their different levels.
I know one around American Embassy. You know that one? Yes,
we started it in partnership with Caritas, Kampala. And it is running since we started it in 2022. It is never stopped. It runs every week. It runs, and we have many more that are running. And we also have supermarkets like Carrefour that are stocking organic products. So the infrastructure for aggregating produce is critical. But last but not least, let's invest in research.
Okay.
Do you know what Naro has done? In the recent past, just a few years ago, Naro has turned cow dung, which farmers used to throw away, and which they still throw away.
They just put in the gardens in any form.
10 valuable products, including liquid soap, chicken feed, fertilizers, fungicides, pesticides, and so on, as biogas and all these 10 products that you can get from cow dung. One, call it a waste material, if you like. But so, if Naro, for instance, has a budget for conducting research specifically on organic agriculture, we will increase the availability of organic technologies that speak to our seed systems, that speak to soil fertility and increasing yields, that speak to protecting our crops against pests and diseases, and so on and so forth. But apart from research, there is a cousin of research, which is education. Invest in primary education. Let's revisit our curriculum. Let's tweak it and make sure it is heavy on nature-friendly practices, organic agriculture. Let us integrate or embed organic agriculture in our curriculums at the secondary level. All the secondary schools should offer organic agriculture as part of the subjects or modules. Let us be intentional, because one of the things that will make Uganda proud and shine on the global stage is organic agriculture. But relatedly, invest in infrastructure for organic tourism, agro-tourism. Organic farms are increasingly becoming tourist sites.
Yes, I know one farm. I've not been privileged to get there. I think it's called the Kainela.
In Kayunga.
In Kayunga.
Yes.
At least I follow them on their various socials. I've not yet gone there, but I see there's so much of academic, agricultural tourism.
Yeah, so the Kainelas of Uganda that are located in different parts of this country have become tourist sites. People go and pay the same way they pay the national park, you know, trekking gorillas and all these birds and wild animals. So we can establish ourselves as a hub for this. So these are areas that government needs to pay attention to. And better still, apportion a budget. prioritize and apportion a budget. There are good things that we have done, and we've been intentional in doing them. So likewise, with organic agriculture, which offers all these social, environmental, economic, and cultural benefits, we should be intentional in strengthening it, in integrating as many farmers as possible, and that will take this country to greater heights.
Well, thank you so much, Charlton. But before we move out of the studios, let me just have your parting shot.
I want to thank you. Again, UBC, you've been very, very excellent partners of the organic industry in Uganda. And as you know, I also lead the organic industry on the African continent. And you've made us proud. You've covered our events. This year, we'll be hosting Africa's Organic and Natural Expo. So the entire continent will be meeting here in Kampala.
Okay.
We will showcase Africa's organic and natural products here in Kampala in November from the 4th to the 6th. So I would like to thank you very much for giving us this visibility and for promoting organic agriculture through your media initiatives. And we look forward to strengthening this partnership. And I think that we should even, let's say, have a structured MOU that then guides our collaboration going forward. I want to thank you very much, and I want to thank the viewers out there for listening to us. And please reach out to us. You can visit us at our office or browse our website, www.nogam.org, for more information. And we can continue with the conversation outside the studios of UBC. Thank you very much. Well,
thank you so much also for having turned up on a short notice. I remember I really got you very late at night, but thank you for being able to make it this morning. More so this very cold morning, when the weather is not that very friendly for the urban dwellers. But for the villagers, yes, when it's raining, it is very clear you're going to have ability to plant, because we depend on rainfall-fed agriculture. But also we prioritize agriculture, knowing that a big percentage of our population is in agriculture. Yes, not as much as those in commercial agriculture, but the fact is agriculture is our backbone. So when we have opportunity to speak to our farmers there, giving them the right information on how best to do agriculture, and also the Kampala Declaration being a very important document, that also we must see how best can we achieve this as the country where we hosted that CADAP summit, and of course that was the outcome, that declaration. We hope you've learned so much, and of course pick interest, because the market is there for you to improve your livelihood, but also to preserve our environment, and all the components of organic agriculture really mean so much to humanity, the environment, and the economy. Have the best of your day. God bless you. See you tomorrow.
Live from